Hey guys, welcome back. Today's topic is respiration part 1 from life processes chapter of class 10 biology. Okay, let's begin the session. Here, first of all, let's discuss about cellular respiration process. Okay, here the food material uh, is used in cells to provide energy for various life processes. Okay, so here food material that we eat is providing the energy, and diverse organisms do this in different ways. Here some organisms use oxygen to break down glucose completely into carbon dioxide and water. Okay, and some other organisms use other pathways that do not involve oxygen. So if there is the involvement of oxygen, this is aerobic respiration. Okay, if there is no oxygen involved, then it is anaerobic respiration. Okay, so these are the different pathways by which the organisms derive energy from the food materials that they eat. Okay, so here if we look here, these are the different pathways of breakdown of glucose. Okay, so breakdown of glucose by different pathways. You can see here the first step in all the pathways is common. Okay, here in all the cases the first step is breakdown of glucose into pyruvate, and this is what we call glycolysis. Okay, so glyco is glucose, lysis is breakdown. So breakdown of glucose into pyruvate is what we call glycolysis, and this step is taking place in cytoplasm of a cell, and this is common both in aerobic respiration as well as anaerobic respiration. Here what happens, the 6 carbon glucose molecule breaks down into 3 carbon pyruvate molecules. Okay, 2 pyruvate molecules are formed from 1 glucose molecule, and this is glycolysis. Okay, now after glycolysis you can see in different organisms different pathways are followed. Okay, so we will now discuss about these different pathways in detail one by one. Okay, so here the pyruvate may be converted into ethanol and carbon dioxide. Okay, and this process takes place in yeast during fermentation process. So here in absence of oxygen, okay, this is what we call anaerobic. Okay, in absence of oxygen in anaerobic conditions, okay, in yeast, okay, breakdown of pyruvate into ethanol and carbon dioxide take place, and this reaction is called fermentation. Okay, so fermentation is nothing but anaerobic breakdown of pyruvate into ethanol and carbon dioxide, and during this process some amount of energy is released. If you see this in the equation, okay, here this pyruvate, okay, in the absence of oxygen, okay, this is absence of oxygen. Okay, in yeast ethanol is formed, carbon dioxide is formed, some amount of energy is released. Okay, ethanol is a 2 carbon compound, okay, carbon dioxide. Okay, so this is how the 3 carbon pyruvate is breaking down into 2 carbon ethanol and carbon dioxide, and some amount of energy is released. In the absence of oxygen, this reaction is taking place in yeast, and this is what we call fermentation. Okay, so this is about fermentation process in yeast. Okay, now moving to one more pathway. Okay, breakdown of pyruvate using oxygen take place in mitochondria. Okay, this is what we call aerobic respiration. Okay, so aerobic respiration take place in mitochondria. Oxygen is involved here. Okay, now this process breaks up the pyruvate molecule into 3 molecules of carbon dioxide. As there are 2 pyruvate molecules formed, Here, one glucose is forming two pyruvate molecules. Obviously, from one pyruvate, three carbon dioxide molecules are formed. So, from two pyruvates, six carbon dioxide molecules will be formed. Okay, so this is how pyruvate breaks down into carbon dioxide and water. Okay, so carbon dioxide and water are the products in aerobic respiration. Here, since this process takes place in presence of oxygen, this is aerobic respiration. Here, comparatively more energy is released. Okay, when compared with anaerobic respiration, more energy is released in aerobic respiration. Okay, so here one more important aspect is this is taking place in mitochondria. Okay, so here one of the important phenomenon, okay, one of cyclic process called Krebs cycle occurs in mitochondria. Okay, so this is finally oxidizing, okay, the compounds like acetyl coenzyme, okay, into carbon dioxide and water. Okay, so this is how pyruvate is first converted into acetyl coenzyme, and this acetyl coenzyme in Krebs cycle completely breaks down into carbon dioxide and water. So Krebs cycle is characteristic of eukaryotes because mitochondria is found in eukaryotic cells. Okay, so comparatively more energy is released, complete oxidation of glucose take place in aerobic respiration. Okay, now moving to the next after this, here sometimes when there is lack of oxygen, when there is insufficient oxygen in our muscle cells, okay, the pyruvate is converted into lactic acid. Lactic acid is a 3-carbon compound. This is taking place in our muscle cells. In our muscle cells, when there is lack of oxygen, when there is insufficient oxygen, generally this condition is created during vigorous exercises. Okay, so during sudden activities, during vigorous exercises, insufficient oxygen condition is created, and during that our muscle cells perform anaerobic respiration, and as a result lactic acid is formed. So here pyruvic acid is converted into lactic acid, and this buildup of lactic acid in our muscles during sudden activity causes cramps. One of the very important question for exams. I repeat this once again. Okay, sometimes when there is a lack of oxygen in our muscle cells, the pyruvate is converted into lactic acid. Okay, and the buildup of lactic acid in our muscles during sudden activity results in cramps, muscle cramps. Okay, so this is about one more anaerobic respiration. Okay, now moving to the next, here the energy released during cellular respiration, whatever mechanisms, whatever pathways that we have discussed till now, 3 pathways we have discussed. Okay, we have discussed about the 3 pathways. One is fermentation process in yeast, second is aerobic respiration in eukaryotic cells, and the third, okay, anaerobic respiration, that is lactic acid formation in muscle cells during lack of oxygen. Okay, so here you can see lack of oxygen in our muscle cells results in conversion of pyruvate into lactic acid, and during this also some amount of energy is released. Okay, so these are the 3 pathways of breakdown of glucose. Okay, this question is very important for board exam for 3 marks. Okay, so these 3 pathways of breakdown of glucose is frequently asked in board exam. Okay, now moving to the next after this, here the energy released during cellular respiration is immediately used to synthesize a molecule called ATP. ATP is adenosine triphosphate. Okay, this is ATP. Okay, ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So whatever energy is released during the respiration process, during the cellular respiration process, that energy is immediately used to synthesize a molecule called ATP. Here this is how it is formed: ADP combines with inorganic phosphate to form ATP. Okay, so this is how ATP formation take place. Okay, now it is used to fuel all other activities in the cell. This ATP molecule is used to fuel all other activities in the cell. This is called energy currency of cell. Okay, because during the cellular activities, during the metabolic activities, if energy is needed, then ATP will break down and energy is released. Okay, and that energy is used to perform the activities. Okay, so this is how cellular respiration play very important role in performing different activities by providing energy rich ATP molecules. Okay, now moving to the continuation, energy currency of the cell, that is what we call ATP. Okay, when the terminal phosphate linkage in ATP is broken down using water, the energy equivalent to 30.5 kilojoules per mole, okay, is released. Very, very important for exams. I repeat this once again. Okay, when the terminal phosphate linkage in ATP is broken down using water, the energy equivalent to 30.5 kilojoules per mole is released, and this energy ATP can be used in the cells for the activities like contraction of muscles, protein synthesis, conduction of nervous impulses, and so many other activities. Okay, so for all these activities energy is needed, and that energy is provided by ATP. So ATP is called energy currency of the cell. ATP is providing 30.5 kilojoules per mole when it is broken down using water. Okay, so this is how energy released from ATP is utilized to perform the different activities in living organisms. Okay, now moving to the continuation, respiration in plants. Okay, in case of plants, stomata, these are the tiny pores. Okay, so tiny pores. These stomatal pores in leaf are the sites of gaseous exchange. Okay, so in case of plants, stomata in leaves are the sites of gaseous exchange. Okay, there are other areas on the plant body as well through which gaseous exchange take place, like surface of roots, lenticels on stem. So surface of the roots and lenticels on the stem are also involved in gaseous exchange process in plants. Okay, so stomata, okay, surface of the roots and lenticels, all these are playing key role, okay, in gaseous exchange process that occur in plants. But majority, okay, mainly the gaseous exchange take place through stomata. Okay, now if we look here, the stomatal apparatus, this is how this is opened stomatal pore, this is closed stomatal pore. Okay, so when water molecules enter into gut cells, okay, so these gut cells become turgid. Okay, when the gut cells become turgid, the stomatal pore is opened. Okay, and when the stomatal pore open, the gaseous exchange take place. Okay, during photosynthesis, carbon dioxide enters inside, oxygen comes out. During respiration, carbon dioxide is entering and oxygen is released. Here, during photosynthesis, carbon dioxide enters. During respiration, oxygen enters. Okay, so this is how gaseous exchange take place. During photosynthesis, oxygen is released out, and during respiration, carbon dioxide is released out. Okay, so here the gut cells regulate the opening and closing of the stomatal pore. This is opened stomatal pore, and here you can see when water is lost from these gut cells, when water is lost from these gut cells shrink, and as a result the stomatal pore is closed. Okay, so this is how, okay, the gut cells are regulating the opening and closing of stomatal pores, and these stomatal pores are very, very important during the process of gaseous exchange and transpiration in plants. Okay, now one more structure that play important role in gaseous exchange is lenticel. they are found on the surface of the stem. Okay, you can see this is a stem. Okay, on the surface of a stem, this is a lenticel. If it is magnified, it is looking like this. Okay, so through these pores, okay, the gaseous molecules can be exchanged. Okay, so these are the lenticels present on the surface of stem. They also are involved in gaseous exchange process in stem and old roots. Okay, so this is about the gaseous exchange process that is occurring in plant. Now let's discuss in detail how the conduction of gases occur in plant. Okay, here the stomatal openings lead to a series of spaces, okay, between the cells inside the plant. Okay, I repeat this once again. The stomatal openings lead to a series of spaces between the cells inside the plant. If you look this diagram, you will understand better. You can see here, this is a stomatal pore. Okay, this stomatal pore is leading to a series of spaces. This is a space, this is a space, this is a space. So stomatal pore is leading to a series of spaces between the cells inside the plant. Okay, now the air spaces are lined with water, where the oxygen is dissolved in this and passes through the porous cell wall into the cytoplasm. Okay, so these air spaces that are shown here, they are lined with water. Okay, so these air spaces are lined with water, and the gaseous molecule dissolve in this water and they pass through the cell wall, the porous cell wall, into the cells like this. Okay, so through the porous cell wall, the water can enter into the cell, and along with that also gaseous molecules can enter. So I repeat this statement once again, very important statement. Okay, the air spaces are lined with water. Okay, you can see this is the air space, it is lined with a thin film of water. Okay, now here in this water the oxygen is dissolved and passes through the porous cell walls into the cytoplasm. Okay, so through the porous cell walls that are found here, the oxygen can enter into the cell cytoplasm. So this is how oxygen enters into the cell, and inside the cell it is playing important role in aerobic respiration process. Mitochondria are found inside the cell. Okay, so there aerobic respiration process occurs, more energy is released, which is used to perform different activities inside the living organism. Okay, so here the spaces that are mentioned are very large in leaves, okay, when compared with the other parts of the plant. Okay, these air spaces that are mentioned, they are very large in leaves when compared with the other parts in the plant. Okay, now you can see here the diagram. Here stomatal pore, it leads to air space. Air space is lined with a thin film of water. In that oxygen can dissolve, and through this porous cell wall oxygen can enter into the cytoplasm. Inside the cell that oxygen is utilized to perform aerobic respiration. Okay, now moving to the next. Here the glucose is broken down into carbon dioxide and water with the liberation of energy. The aerobic respiration process take place inside the cell. Okay, so as I discussed just now here in this picture, aerobic respiration. Okay, so in presence of oxygen, the glucose is breaking down into carbon dioxide and water, and more energy is released. Okay, so this is occurring in mitochondria of eukaryotic cells. Okay, and this mechanism is what we call aerobic respiration. Okay, now here in this case, the glucose is broken down into carbon dioxide and water with the liberation of energy, and the carbon dioxide is passed out into the airspace by a similar method. Okay, so from this again the carbon dioxide is passing out outside. Okay, from the cell it comes out into the airspace, and from there through stomatal pore it will go out of the leaf. Okay, so this is how gaseous exchange take place. Okay, exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, these gases are exchanged. Okay, so during respiration process oxygen is entering into the cell and carbon dioxide is moving out of the cell. Okay, if we think like this, this is a cell, if you think like this is the air, okay, oxygen is going into the cell, carbon dioxide is coming outside. Okay, so this is how the gaseous exchange process occur. Now moving to the next, the whole system works by diffusion. Okay, as the oxygen is used up by the cells, a gradient develops between the cells and the air in the spaces. Okay, so oxygen is utilized by the cells, so there will be a gradient. Gradient is nothing but difference. Okay, it is difference in concentration. Okay, this is difference in concentration of oxygen inside the cell and outside the cell. So as the oxygen is used up by the cells, a gradient develops between the cells and the air in the spaces. Okay, as more carbon dioxide is released by the cells, a gradient occurs in the reverse direction and it passes out into the environment. Okay, so this is how gradients are formed. The differences in concentrations are formed, and they are responsible for gaseous exchange between the cells and environment. Okay, so this is how gaseous exchange process occur in plants. Now one more very important aspect is at night. Okay, when there is no photosynthesis, during night the photosynthesis process do not occur. Okay, and CO2 elimination is the major exchange activity going on. Okay, so at night when there is no photosynthesis occurring, CO2 elimination is the major exchange activity going on. Okay, but during the daytime, when there is CO2 generated during respiration, is used up for photosynthesis. Okay, so during the daytime CO2 is generated during respiration, and that CO2 can be utilized during the photosynthesis process. Hence oxygen release is the major event. So during daytime oxygen release is the major event. During night carbon dioxide release is the major event. Okay, this is how gaseous exchange occur in plants. Okay, now moving to the next, here evolution in gaseous exchanging system. Okay, here single celled organisms like amoeba or multicellular organisms like hydra and planaria obtain oxygen and expel carbon dioxide by diffusion process. Diffusion process is nothing but gaseous molecules spontaneously move from high concentration to low concentration. Okay, I repeat this once again. Gaseous molecules move from high concentration to low concentration spontaneously. That is what we call diffusion. And here diffusion is a phenomenon by which gaseous exchange take place in amoeba, hydra, planaria and other simple organisms. Okay, here in multicellular animals special organs are evolved. Okay, so these special organs are nothing but the respiratory structures. Okay, so now let's discuss here few more details. Animals either terrestrial or aquatic adapted to different types of respiration, mostly depending on the habitat in which they live. So here these animals, they are adapted to different types of respiration, and mostly the type of respiration is depending on the habitat in which the organism lives. Along with this, the body size of an organism, okay, water availability, okay, and also the type of circulatory system, So these are the other aspects that also control, okay, the type of respiration in animals. Okay, but mainly the habitat is deciding the type of respiration. Along with it, the body size, the water availability and the type of circulatory system also deciding the type of respiration in animals. Okay, now moving to the next, here tracheal respiration is found in insects. Okay, here there is tracheal respiratory system in insects like cockroach and grasshopper. Okay, so these trachea, these are the tubes, tube-like structures, tracheal tubes. Okay, here this is divided into fine branches called tracheoles. It means trachea. They are divided into tracheoles. These are the fine branches, okay, which carry air directly to the cells, okay. So this is how the gaseous exchanging process occurs in insects, okay. So through trachea the air is entering, okay, and these trachea are divided into tracheoles. They are directly supplying the oxygen to the cells. So gaseous exchange occurs here, okay. Now tracheal respiratory system consists of a series of tubes, and this series of tubes are called trachea, okay. Now after this you can see here a picture, okay. In insects this is what we call tracheal respiratory system. This is a tracheal trunk, okay. You can see here it consists of a series of tubes. All these are the tubes, okay. This is a tubes, okay. These are the tubes, okay. Now here you can see spiracles are found. These are the external valves, okay. These are the external valves. Through this oxygen the air enters into the body, and through the trachea it is supplied to different cells in the body, okay. Now here the other structure that is shown here, circus. It is important sense organ. This is important sense organ of a cockroach, okay. So it is wind sensitive. It is wind sensitive, okay. And here detect vibrations, okay. It is detecting vibrations. It detects vibrations, okay. So this is how the cerci act as sense organs, okay. Insects draw in air through these external valves. These are called spiracles, and transport the air directly to the cells through the trachea, okay. So this is how tracheal respiration is found in insect. So trachea are the tubes, okay. Spiracles are the external valves through which air enters into the body, okay. Now proceeding after this, respiration in animals. Terrestrial animals can breathe the oxygen in the atmosphere, okay. So directly terrestrial animals can breathe the oxygen from the atmosphere. Animals that live in water need to use oxygen dissolved in water, okay. So terrestrial animals get oxygen from air, but aquatic animals, they need to use oxygen that is dissolved in water. The rate of breathing in aquatic organisms is much faster than that seen in terrestrial organisms. This is one very important statement. I repeat this once again. The rate of breathing in aquatic organisms is much faster than that seen in terrestrial organisms. This is because, okay, here the amount of dissolved oxygen, is fairly low, okay, compared to the amount of oxygen present in the air, okay. So this is in water. The amount of dissolved oxygen present is fairly low when compared with the oxygen present in the atmosphere. So the rate of breathing in aquatic animals is much faster, okay. Now if we discuss here the continuation, this branchial respiration is found in fishes. Aquatic animals like fishes, they perform branchial respiration. Here branchiae are the respiratory structures. These are nothing but the gills, okay. So respiration through gills is called branchial respiration, okay. Branchiae or gills are the respiratory structures. Here fishes have developed special organs for respiration, which are known as gills or branchiae, okay. Here you should not get confused with one more similar word called bronchi, okay. These bronchi are found in human respiratory system, okay. These bronchi, trachea, okay. Here bronchi are the branches that are found in human respiratory system. So here in pulmonary respiration bronchi are found. In branchial respiration gills or branchiae are found. You should not get confused, okay. So these are found in human respiratory system, okay. Human respiratory system, okay. This is pulmonary respiration. In pulmonary respiration, which is through lungs, okay, we find bronchi, okay, but in branchial respiration, gills are the respiratory structure. So you should not get confused here. Now, blood supplied to gills through capillaries which have thin walls where gases are exchanged, okay. So here the blood is supplied to the gills in fishes, and through the capillaries the blood is supplied to the gills, and here they have thin walls where gases can be exchanged. Now, if we discuss this in detail, okay, fish keeps its mouth open, okay, and lowers the floor of the oral cavity. If you see in this picture, this is opened mouth. Mouth is open. The floor of the oral cavity, this is oral cavity, it is lowered, okay. The floor of the oral cavity is lowered and the mouth is opened, okay. As a result, what happens, okay, the water from outside will be drawn into oral cavity, okay. So this is how water enters inside the oral cavity, okay. Now, after this, now the mouth is closed and the floor of the oral cavity is raised. Once the water enters inside the oral cavity, okay, the floor of the oral cavity is raised and the mouth is closed. So what happens? Now let's discuss. Here water is pushed into the pharynx and forced to gill pouches through internal branchial apertures. So here through water is forced like this. Water is forced like this, okay, towards the gills, okay. Now in these gills, gills absorb oxygen that is present in water, okay. So here what happens? Water is pushed into the pharynx. From there it is forced to gill pouches through internal branchial apertures, okay. Now gill lamellae are bathed with water and gaseous exchange take place, okay. So here from the oral cavity water is passing into pharynx, from there towards the gills, okay, and here gill lamellae, they are bathed in this water containing the oxygen. Now the gaseous exchange take place as they have thin respiratory surface, okay. So this is how gaseous exchange take place. Now moving to the next, the continuation part. Here oxygen is utilized, it is absorbed, and the carbon dioxide is released outside. You can see here the oxygen is entering like this, and carbon dioxide will go out, okay, along with the water that is going out, okay. So this is how gaseous exchange take place in fishes. So which type of respiration occurs in fishes? The answer is branchial respiration. And which type of respiration occurs in insects? Tracheal respiration, okay. And here in case of plants, here how gaseous exchange take place, what are the structures involved in gaseous exchange? The mainly, okay, gaseous exchange occurs through stomata, and on the surface of the stem and old roots, okay, the gaseous exchange can occur through lenticels, but here mainly it is through stomatal apparatus, okay. So this is how gaseous exchange occur in plants. Now here the breakdown of glucose occurs by three pathways. One is fermentation in yeast, and second is aerobic respiration in eukaryotic cells that occurs in mitochondria, and the third is lactic acid formation in our muscle cells in the lack of oxygen. Now based on the discussion that we had till now, let's discuss some multiple choice questions from this topic, okay. Question number 1. There is dash respiratory system in insects like cockroach and grasshopper. So which respiratory system is found in insects like cockroach and grasshopper? Option 1, cutaneous respiration. Option 2, branchial respiration. Option 3, tracheal respiration. Option 4, pulmonary respiration. Here in insects, here the answer is third option, okay. So tracheal respiration is found in insects. So series of tubes, okay, these are called trachea, okay. They are further divided into tracheoles, okay, and these tracheoles are supplying oxygen to the cells, okay. So tracheal respiration is found in insects. Now second question, fishes have developed special organs for respiration which are known as So the special organs for respiration in fishes are option 1 tracheoles, option 2 bronchi, option 3 bronchioles, option 4 branchiae. So here option 4 is the correct option. Okay, trachea, they are found in tracheal respiration, so this is wrong. This is in insects. Bronchi are found in pulmonary respiration. Okay, and here bronchioles are the branches of the bronchi. This is wrong. Okay, so branchiae or gills are the respiratory structures in fishes. Okay, now moving to the next question after this. When the terminal phosphate linkage in ATP is broken using water, the energy equivalent to dash is released. So how much energy is released when ATP is breaking down? Okay, so here when ATP breaks down, okay, ADP plus inorganic phosphate are formed and energy is released, and this amount of energy is 30.5 kilojoules per mole. So here option 3 is the correct option. So here when the terminal phosphate linkage in ATP is broken using water, the energy equivalent to 30.5 kilojoules per mole is released. Okay, now after this the next question. Sometimes when there is lack of oxygen results in anaerobic respiration. Okay, build-up of dash in our muscles during sudden activity causes cramps. So build-up of which compound causes, okay, muscle cramps? Option 1 citric acid, option 2 lactic acid, option 3 malic acid, and option 4 succinic acid. Here option 2 is right option. Okay, so during vigorous exercises, okay, during vigorous exercises or during sudden activities, okay, so when our muscles perform quick actions, okay, there is lack of oxygen, and because of that anaerobic respiration occurs and the pyruvate is converted into lactic acid. Okay, and because of the buildup of lactic acid in our muscles during sudden activity, muscle cramps are developed. Okay, now after this moving to the next question. Here the air spaces between cells in leaves are lined with dash, where the oxygen is dissolved in this and passes through the porous cell walls into the cytoplasm. Okay, here I have shown you one picture to explain this concept. Okay, you can see here. Okay, this is the air space. Here stomatal pore, this is air space, and here you can see the thin water film. Okay, so in the air space there is a thin water film. Okay, so in this water film the oxygen is dissolved and through the porous cell walls it can enter into the cells. So here the options given are here first option CO2, second option NO2, third option H2O, and the fourth option H2S. Here the thin film of water is found in the air spaces. So the thin water film, okay, is found in, okay, air spaces. Okay, and in this water film oxygen is dissolved and through the porous cell walls it can enter into the cell cytoplasm. Okay, so this is all about today's topic. Okay, if you are new to my channel, subscribe for more sessions. If you liked it, share it with your friends. I'll be back with more sessions. Have a great day. Thank you all.